Today I'll be showing you how to use Perplexity for best code practices in oral referencing, and I'm going to mention why I chose this as a topic. So first event I think is sponsored by Perplexity, so that is huge. And I just want to say that after being an ambassador for Perplexity, it's been really great. I've been having a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of insights on what to do next. And I've decided on probably you've seen this on the screen. It's cursor if you've not seen it, or maybe your friends have seen it. Maybe you use it every single day. Yeah, but I can't. Essentially, what I'm going with cursor is that I've been using it a lot. And that has been my go-to ID to use, and I've been thinking whenever I want to commit something, I don't know if what I'm going to commit is going to be up to standard with everything that there is. Is it best code practices? Is it going to be the best libraries that I can use? Why I thought about this is simply, that's a lot of things to commit. Essentially, I just want to focus on dead set focus on one single page, one single block of code, page of code, and just put the code base in, put this code in, and say, is there anything I can do given the code base to make this code up to standard? So what I mean by that is, essentially my friend started, he's freelancing, so he started to do something for a client. He was working on C#, he was new to it, and essentially what happened is that he chose a library to create windows and pages, and it was outdated, ancient. And it took him a lot to actually go on with it, create something. If he used something like code best practices, what is the latest libraries to use this? What do industry experts use on this? It could have been a lot faster, is what I thought. So faster research, first thing that came to mind, essentially Perplexity. Sona is really fast, and I said, why not just plug both of them in and try to create something that just checks for best code practice and everything. And how I do this, small code base summary. Code base summary was the hardest part of it. So I just put the entirety of the code base. Of course, I first do something called ASTs, abstract syntax trees. And then I divide it into chunks, use LangGraph, and just give it to the AI to work with it. And afterwards, I get something in the form of a JSON file, straight up text file. So what happens here is a lot of technology, a lot of abstract syntax trees, a lot of LangGraph, a lot of LangChain, and then everything goes into the AI. What I use is Gemini and also Perplexity too. And then I get a JSON result for the code base summary. And afterwards, the code base summary, I get this this one page of code and the entirety of the code summary. And I just ask it what it can do as best practices. So in that sense, it's still Perplexity. Perplexity Sonar just came out, and it is really fast, and it is really good on research. A lot of students use it most of the time. And on top of that, for example, these are it's old, but it's good enough. As in, we can see that Sonar is really fast when compared to Cloud and Gemini. And I have tested Cloud 3.7 Sonar. I use it a lot in my daily coding. And it is quite a bit faster, but essentially Sonar still is the fastest, and I'll be showing it in a second. And I tested with Gemini, I tested with 4.5 preview for OpenAI's model, and OpenAI's model was really slow. So essentially, it was a competition between either Perplexity Sonar or Cloud 3.7 Sonnet. So essentially what I have here is going to be a small demo. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna, I have a code that I already took from the same code base that I showed with a lot of packages and everything, a lot of things to commit. And I'll just say compare LLM performances, and I'll be generating a response. As you can see, this just started off. And OpenAI GPT is still trying to do something, and it's just creating the code, best practices, how to do error handling. And this was the most basic code imaginable. And there's also some references that you can take for your code. As in, you just paste the code, you get the references for it, you get the best practices, you get the what kind of libraries that you can use with it. And essentially it's just fast, and it just gives all the sources afterwards and documentation. So when you try to build something, you have it immediately. Before committing, you just run this and you get the best practices. You know what to do. I tried building a dashboard. Had something called VizX to use as Airbnb's library, and it was really good in customization, but it was not old either. But it was really hard to get into. And I asked Hi, I'm like, what should I do? I got a dashboard project in my hands. And he said, just use one of the more newer libraries, one of the most widely used, chassis and UI graphs. And it just worked. Something that would have taken me weeks took me a couple days. And so with this, you pretty much understand that you can do something, well, a lot faster and a lot up to best practices, if that makes any sense. Yep. And just going back to it.
Zoom in.
That is pretty much the end of it, as in it was a comparison tool. Afterwards, what the project will be relying on is I'll be trying to do, because I showed cursor, I'll be trying to turn it into an extension, and before you commit, you just run it for singular files, and then you get the results. Best practices, code references, so something that takes usually a lot of time, takes a lot less time, because you just ran it and just got the latest instead of the oldest and most commonly used. You get the most efficient way. And that was what it was about. I'll be also putting a standalone web page for it, so you can paste your code in and get some of the code practices out. And that is about it. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
So my understanding is that Perplexity is really good at the search stuff, and when it's generating that response, is it doing any search before it's giving you those tokens?
Like, yeah, essentially what it's doing is I also had like a token estimator. Before you even launch the code, before you, as a standalone file too, before you do it, it checks out how many tokens it will use. Then you reduce the code base into like a small summary, and then for that I had it in some file. But for the actual code that I pasted, it actually takes the response, gets the code summary of the code base, and just puts the best practices as a result.
So if it sees in my package JSON I'm using some version of a library, it's not doing searches to see if that's the latest version that may have come out after the model cut off?
It does do that, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's the latest stuff. So yeah, and it understands that it's like, oh, like these are interactable together. This is completely out of date, so you gotta update this, and everything just it'll be giving under like in the comparison part. Yeah.
You mentioned there will be an extension version of it.
Yeah.
It will be taking care of the entire commit status entirely in terms of like, this is the first code base, this is references in that code, and like the entirety of the commit status?
So how I looked at it was kind of like I'm looking at an entire change log. I see all the files that have been changed. I see the summary that was there before. I look at the changes that were done. I do the code summary again, but a smaller size, and then I look at the best practice. So it's going to be like that. It was a bit too ambitious at the start, but right now I just decided to put the code summary by itself, and then you add it as a source, and then you put the file in, and then it just generates the best file. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you compare the quality generated by Perplexity API and Claude 3.7 and GPT 4.5?
Yeah, the GPT one was not up to 4.5 one was not the best one. Sonar Perplexity, it was the fastest. It it was like a match between a Sonnet and the Perplexity one, and I think Perplexity does better in terms of research.
And also I saw that there are sources and it is citation from the Perplexity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the Claude and the GPT 4.5 do not provide those citations?
They did provide citations too, yes,
okay.
Because I specified in the prompts and everything. But well, Perplexity gave me the better documentations and more specific libraries under those documentations.
Okay.
So Perplexity can generate good code now? That's what you're saying?
Well, it can I'm not saying it summarizes the best.
Okay.
I summarize it using Gemini most of the time. I just ran the Perplexity because it's the fastest one. Like before you commit, it's the fastest one possible, plus it does the research best.
Right.
It doesn't write any code.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
It just references code so I can cross-reference afterwards.
One more question?
What's
Yeah.
what's the context window on the Perplexity stuff?
Context window?
How much stuff can you throw at it at once?
Well, I had like a limit of 12K tokens, 12K 800 or something. And well, it is, if you don't want it to completely use up all the tokens, because everyone here I'm pretty sure has Perplexity Pro now, if you don't want it to use all the tokens together, you have to set up maxes. And I had that, and I had to reduce this code-based summary like considerably to actually get a good response. Well, that's